Chosen one. Hear this without distraction. Your life is not drifting through random dates on a human calendar. Heaven itself has leaned down and carved the 16th of August, 2025, into your story. It is not a date to be feared, nor one to be ignored. It is an appointment written before you drew your first breath, inked in the scrolls of eternity, sealed by the breath of the Almighty. You may not have felt ready. Perhaps the months before this moment have felt like a wilderness, quiet, stretching, endless. But this is how God works with those He has set apart. He lets the roots go deep before the tree breaks the surface. He hides the seed in darkness before commanding it to break open. And right now, you are that seed. I must tell you about Miriam, a young woman who once sat in the back corner of a church she almost didn't walk into. She was worn thin from years of waiting for a breakthrough that never seemed to come. Prayers felt unanswered. Friends had drifted away. She said to herself, "Maybe I am forgotten." But then, one night in early August, she had a dream. In it, she stood in a vast desert, and a single drop of rain landed on her hand. She looked up and saw black clouds gathering. 3 days later, her phone rang. An opportunity she had prayed for years prior had suddenly come to life. She told me, "That day, I knew God had been circling a date in His own calendar for me, even when I thought nothing was happening." You, chosen one, are standing in a similar place. The drop of rain is already on your hand. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 27, verse 14. "Wait for the Lord, be strong, and take heart, and wait for the Lord." This is the posture you are to carry as the 16th of August approaches, not trembling, but anchored, not anxious, but alert. I want you to imagine your life as a lighthouse standing on the edge of a stormy cliff. All around, the waves rage and the night hides the horizon. Yet inside that tower, a light sweeps over the waters again and again, unshaken by the fury below. That is what you are right now. Your purpose is not to calm the sea that is God's work, but to shine until the appointed ship finds its way home. Between now and that date, you will sense subtle shifts. Conversations that seem ordinary will suddenly carry unusual weight. A sentence from Scripture will feel like it's been set aflame in your spirit. Even the wind against your face will seem to carry a whisper. Do not dismiss these moments. Every one of them is a breadcrumb leading you toward the day heaven has been preparing for you. But this is not a passive countdown. The 16th of August is not simply coming to you. You are walking toward it. The steps you take now matter. The words you speak now matter. The prayers you pray now matter. Even the small acts of obedience, turning off a distraction, forgiving someone, blessing an enemy, are laying the tracks for the train of blessing that will arrive on time. I will not sugarcoat it. There will be resistance. Whenever a chosen one nears a threshold moment, the adversary grows restless. You may notice old doubts resurfacing, sudden misunderstandings with those close to you, or a wave of discouragement for no apparent reason. These are not coincidences. They are tactical distractions meant to pull your eyes from the horizon. But I tell you this, no wind of confusion can uproot what God has planted in your life. As you hear these words, I invite you not as a command, but as an open door to mark this message in your own way. Share it if it resonates with you. Speak life into someone else's timeline. And comment below. 416. as a sign that you are in agreement with heaven's calendar. Your voice matters in this moment, because when the sun rises on the 16th of August, 2025, I believe you will stand in a moment that makes sense of many nights of questioning. You will see why the seed had to be hidden, why the roots had to go deep, why the storm could not take you out. You will realize you were never simply surviving days. You were moving toward a date God Himself had set. And when you cross it, you will not just be the same person with another day behind you. You will be a lighthouse with its beam brighter, a seed in full bloom, a Miriam stepping into the rain she once thought would never come. This is your time. This is your date. And heaven has already circled it. Comment 416 below as your sign of agreement. Share this so another chosen one can awaken. And make sure you are connected here so you don't miss the next word heaven has for you. The night is still, yet something stirs. Long before the appointed day arrives, God begins speaking in ways that slip past logic and into the hidden chambers of your heart. It is not always a booming voice from the heavens. More often, it is a whisper at a time you least expect, a word that brushes against your thoughts in the quiet hours when the world has gone to sleep. Sometimes it begins in dreams. You find yourself walking through places you have never visited, speaking with people you have never met. And yet, the feelings linger long after you wake. Peace, urgency, or other times, you wake suddenly in the middle of the night, with a sentence echoing in your mind, though no one spoke it aloud. This is how heaven trains the ears of the chosen ones. It is not just the words themselves, but the timing. Why would you wake at that exact hour? Why that phrase? These moments are not coincidences. They are drops of water on parched soil, proof that your spirit is being prepared for something beyond the ordinary. I think of Daniel, not the prophet of Scripture this time, but a young man in a crowded city, surrounded by constant noise. His life felt like it was stuck in an endless cycle: work, home, sleep, repeat. But in the stillness of one night, he heard a sentence in his dream. The key is already in the lock. He woke up confused, yet deeply aware that God had spoken. The days that followed were filled with small but undeniable confirmations, doors opening where he had been knocking for years. By the time his appointed day came, he understood the dream had been God's way of saying, "You are closer than you think." And the whispers of God in the midnight hour are rarely just about information. They are invitations. They draw you into conversation with Him. When you notice these stirrings, you are meant to lean in, not shrug them off. Just as Samuel once heard his name called in the night, you too are learning to answer with, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." And as Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 27, "What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the rooftops." These midnight moments are not just for your comfort. They are seeds to be planted in the light when the time is right. At first, it may feel subtle. A verse comes to mind without reason. You feel the urge to pray for someone at an unusual hour. You sense a shift in the atmosphere, as though the air has thickened with meaning. The instinct is to brush it aside. But those attuned to heaven's frequency know that obedience often begins with something small, something quiet. One of the mysteries of the midnight whisper is that it often reveals what daylight hides. In the busyness of the day, your heart is divided among responsibilities and distractions. But when the night comes, the noise fades. This is when heaven leans close. The whisper does not have to compete with the roar of the world. It only needs to reach the ear of a listening heart. These whispers may be personal, speaking directly into your circumstances. Others might not make sense right away, but will align with God's larger plan later. Sometimes, the whisper is not words at all. It's a sense of being watched over, a peace that wraps around you like a blanket in the dark. It's important to see these moments not as interruptions, but as rehearsals. The 16th of August will not appear out of nowhere. It is preceded by a rhythm, a series of divine notes preparing you for the crescendo. Imagine a musician tuning their instrument before a great performance. The audience may not notice, but the musician knows the sound must be right before the first note is played. In the same way, God tunes your spirit in the hidden hours so that when the moment comes, you are in perfect harmony with His timing. Some whispers will be correction, a gentle pull away from paths that would harm you. Others will be affirmation, a quiet yes to a decision you've feared making. And some will be unveiling, a reminder that what you thought was lost has been in God's keeping all along. When your own appointed moment arrives, you will see these whispers for what they truly were, not random, but deliberate steps bringing you closer to His perfect plan. Something inside you has been shifting, and you can feel it even when no one else notices. It is not anxiety. It is not restlessness. It is the Spirit of God awakening a deeper awareness inside you, a knowing that the air around you has changed, that the spiritual atmosphere is heavy with meaning. It can happen while you're doing something simple, like washing dishes or walking down the street. A thought flashes across your mind, a sudden clarity that what is coming is unlike anything you've lived through before. You may even feel like you're standing in the hallway between two seasons behind you. The familiar ahead of you, the unfamiliar but irresistibly pulling. I remember speaking with Jonah, not the one swallowed by a great fish, but a young believer who always sensed things before they happened. He told me, "Sometimes I feel like my spirit gets the news before my mind can catch up." Weeks before a major change in his life, he felt an unshakable stillness, as if heaven had placed a hand on his shoulder, saying, "Stand here. Don't move yet." When the day came, the pieces fit perfectly, and he realized that inner stillness had been God's way of holding him in place until the right door opened. That is the stirring you are feeling now, not nervous energy, but alignment. Your spirit is like the sails of a ship catching wind from a direction no one else can sense yet. The wind is invisible, but it is real. You can't see where it begins, but you will see where it carries you, according to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. This is why the stirring in your spirit is not to be feared. It is heaven's signal that your steps are being arranged with precision, even if you can't see the full map. In this season, you may feel tension between action and waiting. You want to move, to make something happen, yet something inside whispers, "Not yet." This is not hesitation, it is divine timing. God's preparation is not only about giving you what you're waiting for, it's about shaping you so that when it arrives, you can carry it well. Some people around you may not understand this pause. They might say you're overthinking, missing opportunities, or moving too slowly. But those who are chosen for specific assignments must learn a different pace. The world runs in circles, chasing what is urgent. The kingdom walks in step with what is eternal. Think of it like a bow being drawn back before releasing an arrow. The backward pull might feel like delay, but in truth, it's the force that will launch you further when the time comes. Without the pull, there is no power in the release. In the days ahead, you may notice certain things falling away: habits, relationships, routines that no longer match the path you're on. Don't fight it. The stirring in your spirit often comes with a quiet clearing of the ground, making room for what's about to grow. And here is the beauty. This stirring is not only for you, it is part of a chain reaction. When one chosen one comes into alignment, it creates ripples that touch others in ways unseen. Your obedience, your patience, your listening heart, they are preparing someone else's miracle as much as your own. If you feel that unmistakable pull inside, stronger than a thought, deeper than a feeling, then take one small but powerful step right now. Type "stepping forward" below. This is more than a comment. It is a declaration to God, to yourself, and to the spiritual realm that you are not resisting the wind that is carrying you. You are choosing to move in agreement with it. When you say it, you shift from simply feeling the stirring to actively walking in its direction. Because when the appointed day comes, it will not feel like something sudden happened to you. It will feel like something you were already walking toward. Every step, every pause, every whisper will make sense. And you will know the stirring was never random. It was the voice of the one who establishes your steps, drawing you exactly where you are meant to be. And in that moment, you won't just be aware, you will be ready. Ready to step through the door without hesitation. Ready to embrace the shift without fear. Ready to carry the weight of the promise with both hands, knowing it was crafted for you, and you for it. Since before time began, the closer you move toward your appointed moment, the more the counterfeit tries to take shape. It rarely arrives as something obviously dark or dangerous. Instead, it comes dressed in the colors of what you've been praying for, but just slightly out of tune. The enemy knows that for a chosen one, the most effective trap is not outright evil. It's distraction disguised as opportunity. The counterfeit may show up as a relationship that feels exciting but lacks the peace of God. It might be an offer that promises quick results but requires you to compromise the values you've carried through fire. It could even be a path that looks easier than the one God placed before you. Yet deep inside, something feels off, like a beautiful song played on an instrument just slightly out of key. This is why discernment in this season is crucial. Not every open door is from heaven, and not every gift comes from the Father of lights. Some are set as detours, designed to lure you from the narrow road to a path that circles endlessly. I think of Anna, a woman who spent years believing for a specific calling in her life. Just when she was weeks away from stepping into a role she had been prepared for, she received another offer. On paper, it looked perfect: better pay, more recognition, and the promise of immediate influence. But there was a check in her spirit, a heaviness she couldn't shake. She prayed, fasted, and asked for confirmation. The next week, a verse from her morning reading seemed to leap off the page, warning her not to turn aside. She declined the offer, Months later, she learned the position had collapsed, leaving many stranded. The very next day, after she said no, the door God had originally planned for her opened wide. As the apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, second letter, chapter 11, verse 14. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. That is why every seemingly good thing must be weighed against the truth of God's word and the peace of his Spirit. The counterfeit often appeals to impatience. It whispers, "You've waited long enough. Why not take this now?" But the promises of God carry the mark of his timing, and anything that urges you to rush ahead without his peace is suspect. Even Jesus, in the wilderness, was offered kingdoms without the cross, a shortcut that would have sidestepped his mission entirely. You may notice that the counterfeit carries a certain urgency, almost a pressure, as if something terrible will happen if you don't decide right away. God's invitations may be urgent in spirit, but never pressured in tone. They are firm, but gentle, confident, but not coercive. The danger of the counterfeit is not only in what it offers, but in what it distracts you from. If the enemy can occupy your energy, attention, and affection on something almost God's will, he knows you'll have little left for the real thing when it comes. That is why this is a time for guarded vision. Picture yourself as a watchman on a city wall. From your vantage point, you can see far beyond what those inside the city can see. Shapes in the distance can be hard to identify at first, friend or foe, promise or trap. The longer you watch, the clearer they become. That is why stillness, prayer, and scripture in this season are your greatest weapons. Sometimes, the counterfeit will even mimic the very answer you've been praying for. It will use similar language, familiar patterns, and appealing signs. This is where you must remember, God does not only give you what you ask for, he gives you what you are truly ready for. And the counterfeit often skips the process, offering the prize without the preparation. God never leaves his chosen ones without clarity. If you seek him earnestly, he will make the difference plain. The same Spirit that whispers comfort also warns in conviction. When you feel a pull towards something but also a subtle unease, pause. Ask, "Lord, is this from you?" And then listen not just for an answer, but for his peace. When you look back, you will see that some of the greatest blessings in your life will be the things you didn't accept. Resisting the counterfeit is not about paranoia, it's about loyalty. And when you reach your appointed day without being pulled off course, you will have the promise and the testimony of choosing rightly when the wrong thing was dressed in all the right colors. There is a reason warriors are told to prepare before the battle begins. No soldier steps onto the field without sharpening their weapon, securing their armor, and knowing the sound of their commander's voice. And you, chosen one, are no different. As the 16th of August draws closer, the Spirit of God is calling you to arm yourself, not with fear or anxiety, but with readiness. Readiness in the kingdom is not about frantic activity. It is about disciplined positioning. Prayer becomes your shield. Worship becomes your sword. The Word of God becomes your unshakable foundation. Each of these strengthens you, not just for the moment of victory, but for the resistance that may rise before it arrives. I think of Elijah on Mount Carmel, standing before a nation that had wavered between two opinions. Before the fire fell, he rebuilt the altar, he arranged the stones, laid the wood, and poured water until it seemed impossible for a spark to survive. Why? Because the preparation itself was a statement of faith God would answer. And when He did, there would be no doubt it was Him. Your preparation is the same. It tells heaven you are in agreement. It tells the enemy you are not afraid. And it tells your own heart that you believe the promise is worth the effort. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 11. Put on the full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. This is not a casual suggestion, it is a divine instruction for every chosen one approaching a significant moment. There will be days when preparation feels invisible, when it seems like nothing is happening. But in truth, every time you pray, you are reinforcing your walls. Every time you open the scriptures, you are sharpening your blade. Every time you choose righteousness over compromise, you are fitting another piece of armor into place. Sometimes, the preparation will take you out of your comfort zone. You might be led to fast, not as a performance, but as a way to silence the voice of the flesh, so the Spirit's whisper grows clearer. You might be called to forgive someone you've held a grudge against for years, not because they asked, but because freedom in your heart is part of the battle plan. You might be stirred to speak truth into someone's life, even when it's risky, because obedience strengthens your authority in the Spirit. The enemy knows a prepared believer is dangerous. That is why distractions will increase in this season, small irritations, unnecessary conflicts, sudden waves of weariness. He would rather see you busy than ready, exhausted than alert. But this is your time to resist not only the obvious temptations, but the subtle drains on your energy and focus. And I must say this, you are not preparing alone. Across the world, other chosen ones are sharpening their swords, oiling their shields, and lifting their prayers. You are part of a vast, unseen army that is being positioned for a coordinated move of God. If these words resonate with you, take a moment to like this message so it reaches more warriors who need the reminder. Share it with someone you know is in preparation. And subscribe so you remain connected to the flow of prophetic encouragement in this season. And if God puts it on your heart, sow a seed to support this work, not because heaven is short on resources, but because what you invest in the kingdom multiplies far beyond what you can see. You may not realize it now, but your preparation is also shaping the generations that will follow you. The prayers you pray today will echo long after the 16th of August has passed. The word you hide in your heart now will be the sword you hand to someone else in their moment of battle. The faith you demonstrate in this season will become a map for someone who comes after you. In ancient battles, soldiers would stand shoulder to shoulder, their shields locked together, forming an unbroken wall. No matter how fierce the attack, they held their ground as one. That is the kind of preparation heaven is calling you into now, not isolated effort, but unity with others who carry the same fire. There will be moments when you feel the weight of the armor and wonder if the fight is worth it. But then you will remember, the one who called you is faithful. He never asked you to fight in your own strength, only to stand in His. And when the day comes, you will not stumble into victory by accident. You will walk into it as one who has trained for this very moment. The sword in your hand will feel natural. The shield on your arm will feel light. And the voice of your commander will be unmistakable. So, stand tall. Tighten your armor. Keep your eyes fixed forward. And remember, You are not simply waiting for the 16th of August. You are preparing to take it. There are moments in a believer's journey when God gives a physical act to match a spiritual truth, something you can see or say that seals the word He has spoken over you. This is why, throughout Scripture, people built altars, wrote memorial stones, or changed their names. It wasn't just for remembrance, it was a prophetic act that marked agreement between heaven and earth. In this season, the 16th of August is more than a date. It is a memorial stone in your story. And God is calling you to set your agreement in place, not only with your thoughts, but with an outward sign. I think of Joshua leading the Israelites across the Jordan. The water had stood still by the power of God, allowing the people to pass on dry ground. But before the waters flowed again, Joshua told 12 men to each take a stone from the riverbed. Those stones were carried to the place where they camped, set in a pile as a sign for generations to come. When children in the future would ask, "What do these stones mean?" the story would be told that God had made a way where there was none. Your life carries such stones, moments where God intervened, times when the impossible became possible. And now, this coming moment, the 16th of August, is to be another. But just as in days of old, God invites you to mark it prophetically, to make it tangible, to declare with faith before you see it happen. As the Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 19, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." This is not a suggestion that change might come. It is a declaration that it already has begun. In the days leading up to a divine appointment, prophetic acts can serve as both a declaration and a weapon. The enemy works to sow doubt, to make you question if you really heard from God. But when you act on the word, when you write it down, speak it out, or attach a sign to it, you are reminding both yourself and the unseen realm that you are aligned with heaven. Some may ask, but what difference does a simple number or word make? The truth is, God often works through simple things to carry deep meaning. The staff in Moses' hand, the sling in David's pouch, the jars of water in Cana, ordinary in appearance, extraordinary in effect when offered in obedience. This is why I believe God is leading you to make a simple yet bold declaration today. It is a number you will type, a number that represents your personal agreement with His plan for the 16th of August. Not because the number itself holds power, but because your obedience to act on what He's stirring in you does. When you type it, you're doing what the prophets and patriarchs did. You're leaving a mark that says, "This is the moment I stepped into alignment. This is the day I put my faith into action." M, for you, the number is 824. 8, the number of new beginnings. 2, the witness of agreement between you and God. 4, His completion and order in creation. Together, they are a prophetic sign that what is coming is both new and divinely ordered, witnessed and sealed in heaven. This is not just for you to remember. It will encourage someone else who sees it. You may never know who needed the confirmation, but your act of obedience could be the very sign they were praying for. In the days to come, keep your eyes open. Little confirmations will appear, conversations, unexpected opportunities, verses that seem to light up the page. These are reminders that your declaration has already set something in motion, And when the 16th of August arrives, you will look back and see that you weren't just waiting for the day, you were participating in its arrival. So don't let this pass as just another message. Seal your agreement. Speak your faith into the open. And remember, God doesn't just watch over His word to perform it. He watches over His people to carry them into it. Type 824 below as your prophetic sign of agreement, a simple number carrying eternal meaning. Let it be your memorial stone in this season, your reminder that you have heard, you believe, and you are ready for the new thing He is doing. And when you see that number again, in a place you didn't expect, let it remind you that heaven remembers this moment, and the promise is already unfolding toward you. There is a point in every chosen one's journey where the fire is turned up, not to destroy, but to refine. This is not the gentle warmth of a campfire. It is the intense heat of a forge, where metal is shaped into something stronger, sharper, and more useful than it was before. The refining fire is not punishment. It is preparation. Punishment is about repayment for wrongdoing. Refining is about transformation for greater purpose. In the hands of God, the flames that touch your life are never meant to consume you, but to burn away what cannot go with you into the next season. I think of silver in the ancient refiner's crucible. The silver is heated until the impurities rise to the surface. The refiner watches closely, not leaving it for a moment, skimming off the dross again and again until he can see his own reflection in the molten metal. That is the picture of what God is doing in you now. The trials you are facing are not random. The pressure you feel is not meaningless. Each challenge is part of a process shaping you into someone who can carry the weight of the promise. Coming on the 16th of August, the ancient words recorded in the book of Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 9, declare, I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. They will call on my name, and I will answer them. I will say, they are my people. And they will say, the Lord is our God. These are not just poetic lines, they are the outline of your current season. When you are in the middle of the refining, it often feels like loss. Relationships shift. Opportunities you thought were secure may disappear. Even habits or mindsets you've relied on for years begin to break down. It can be painful to let them go. But the fire reveals what was temporary and strengthens what is eternal. Sometimes the refining is internal. God brings to the surface hidden fears, old wounds, or pride you didn't realize was there. This can be uncomfortable because it forces you to see yourself honestly. But just as the refiner doesn't heat the silver to shame it, God doesn't expose these things to condemn you. He does it so you can be free of them. There's a story of a woman named Ruth who went through years of financial instability. She prayed for stability, but instead of sudden provision, she faced months of unexpected expenses, job changes, and personal challenges. She told me later, at first I thought I was under attack, but I realized God was teaching me to trust Him daily. I came out of that season with a faith that money couldn't buy. Her faith had been refined, and when provision came, it didn't control her heart. It simply became a tool in her hands. The refining fire also tests your endurance. It asks the question, will you keep standing when everything in you wants to sit down? There will be moments where the easiest option seems to be quitting. Yet every time you choose to keep going, the fire strengthens your resolve. It's important to remember that God controls the temperature. The refiner knows exactly how much heat is needed, too little. and the impurities won't rise too much, and the silver will be damaged. You are not left in the flames longer than necessary, and you are not exposed to more than you can bear. With His help, this season may also bring clarity about who is meant to walk with you into the next chapter. Fire has a way of revealing loyalty and exposing pretenses. Some people may distance themselves when the heat rises, not because they are evil, but because their assignment was only for a season. Others will stand closer, not minding the flames, because they are being refined alongside you. And here's the promise hidden in the refining. When you come out, you will not look like what you've been through. The silver doesn't carry the smoke of the fire, it carries the shine of the refiner's reflection. When the day arrives, those who see you will recognize the mark of God on you, not because you avoided hardship, but because you endured it and came out transformed. If you are in the fire now, hold steady. Don't misinterpret it as rejection or abandonment. The fire is proof that you are valuable. No one refines trash, they refine treasure. You are in the crucible because you are worth the effort, worth the process, worth the heat. And when the 16th of August comes, you will be able to hold what God places in your hands without it slipping away, because the fire will have burned away the weaknesses that could have caused you to drop it. You will carry not only the blessing, but the character to sustain it. There are seasons when heaven draws closer in ways that almost feel tangible. These moments often come in the form of angelic encounters, sometimes bold and undeniable, other times subtle and easily missed if you're not paying attention. Angels are not just figures in children's stories or soft images in stained glass windows. They are ministering spirits, sent to serve those who will inherit salvation. Their presence in your journey is not decorative, it is purposeful. In times of great transition, such as the one leading to the 16th of August, heaven often deploys them with precision to protect, guide, and confirm God's plans. Some encounters are dramatic, like the angels who appeared to the shepherds on the night of Jesus' birth, filling the sky with light and proclaiming the good news. Others are quiet, like the one who came to strengthen Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, visible to him alone in his moment of agony. The way they appear is always suited to the assignment. I think of a man named Stephen, who told me of a night when he was driving home from work, exhausted and lost in thought. A sudden urge made him slow down, just before a large truck ran a red light ahead of him. The next morning, while praying, he felt a deep impression in his spirit. You were protected last night. He couldn't explain it, but he knew an unseen hand had intervened, whether in the form of a voice, a nudge, or a literal shield. God had sent help, as the voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 23, verse 20. See, I am sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared. This is not a vague comfort. It is a promise that in certain seasons, heaven will assign messengers specifically for your path. Some angelic encounters come as people. You meet someone who seems to appear out of nowhere at exactly the right moment. They say something that pierces through your confusion or pray for you without knowing the weight you've been carrying. You turn to thank them later, but they are gone, and you cannot find them again. Many have walked away from such moments, wondering if they had just entertained an angel without realizing it. Other times, the encounter is purely spiritual, a vision in prayer, a dream so vivid it feels like you were somewhere else entirely. These moments often carry instructions or warnings. They are not given for curiosity's sake, but to equip you for the next step. It's important to note that angelic encounters are not to replace God's voice. Angels carry His message. They are not the source of it. This is why their presence always aligns with His word and His Spirit. If an encounter leads you away from the truth of Scripture, it is not of God. The messengers of heaven will always point you toward the Messiah, never away from Him. You may also find that the closer you get to a divine appointment, the more you sense this unseen activity. It could be in moments of worship when the air feels charged, or in times of prayer when the atmosphere shifts suddenly and peace floods in. Sometimes the angelic presence is felt most in the stillness, like a quiet reassurance that you are not walking alone. One of the ways to remain sensitive to these moments is to keep a posture of awareness. The writer of Hebrews reminds us not to forget to show hospitality, for by doing so, some have entertained angels without knowing it. That means the miraculous is often wrapped in the ordinary, and what feels like a small interaction could be part of a much bigger move of God. In the days ahead, you may not see winged figures in shining robes, but you might notice doors opening without explanation, danger passing you by, or words reaching you at just the right moment. Whether you recognize it at the time or not, heaven's messengers are at work, and when you look back after the 16th of August, you may realize that certain encounters were not coincidences at all. They were divine appointments, set up to ensure you arrived exactly where God intended, protected, guided, and affirmed every step of the way. In that moment, gratitude will rise in you, not only for the destination reached, but for the unseen hands that carried you there when you didn't even realize you needed carrying. You will walk forward with a deeper confidence, knowing that heaven's help is never late, never accidental, and always perfectly aligned with the path the Father has prepared for you. There comes a time when the quiet stirring inside must be made public, not as a performance for others, but as a declaration of where you stand and who you belong to. This is the season you are in now. The word God has placed in your heart is not meant to stay hidden forever. Public declaration is powerful because it does three things. First, it aligns you with heaven openly, signaling to both the seen and unseen realms that you have chosen your side. Second, it encourages others who are watching, many of whom are waiting for the courage to step forward themselves. Third, it strengthens your own resolve, because once you speak something into the light, it becomes harder to shrink back from it. I think of Peter on the day of Pentecost. The same man who had denied Jesus out of fear now stood before a crowd, declaring the truth without hesitation. What had changed? He had encountered the risen Christ, been filled with the Spirit, and knew he could not remain silent. That public stand sparked a movement that continues to this day. Your declaration may not be before thousands, but it carries no less weight. It could be telling a friend about the promise God has spoken to you. It might be posting a scripture that burns in your heart. It could even be a simple sentence you write as a way of saying, "I'm not hiding this anymore." When, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in Joshua, chapter 24, verse 15, "But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord." Joshua's words were not whispered in a corner. They were spoken before the people as a covenant statement. In the days ahead, your public stand will matter. The closer you move toward the 16th of August, the more the enemy will try to convince you to stay quiet, to keep your faith private and your obedience unseen. But silence in a moment of declaration is agreement with the opposition. This is why Jesus said that whoever acknowledges him before others will be acknowledged before the Father. Public declaration is not about arrogance, it's about agreement. It says, "I am standing where God has placed me, and I will not be moved." It invites heaven's authority to rest openly on your life, making your steps a testimony others can see. Sometimes the declaration is costly. People might question you. Some might distance themselves. But what is lost in comfort will be gained in clarity, courage, and divine alignment. And when God's promise unfolds, those same people will witness the fruit of the stand you took. If you feel that this is your moment to step out, do not overcomplicate it. The most powerful declarations are often the simplest ones, short enough to say in a breath, strong enough to echo in eternity. Type, "I choose you," below. Let this be your act of stepping into the light, your way of saying, "My allegiance is clear, my voice is not hidden, and my heart is fixed." When you write it, you are not just leaving a comment, you are leaving a mark, declaring before heaven and earth where you belong. And in the days ahead, when the winds rise or doubts whisper, you will remember, you didn't just believe quietly, you spoke it. You stood, and heaven heard. You will also discover something else about public declaration. It has a way of strengthening you in the moments you least expect. There will be days when you feel weary, when the promise feels far away, and the path seems longer than you imagined. In those moments, the memory of your own words will come back to you like an anchor. "I choose you" will not just be something you once typed. It will be a living reminder of the decision you made to remain steadfast. Others may also be impacted in ways you will never fully see. A friend might read your comment in silence and feel courage rise in their own heart. A stranger scrolling past might pause, wondering why those words strike them so deeply, and realize they too need to take a stand. Your declaration becomes a ripple in the spiritual waters, carrying influence far beyond your own circle. And when the 16th of August arrives, the ground beneath your feet will feel different, not because the day itself is magical, but because you will be standing in it as someone who has already chosen, already declared, and already aligned yourself with the will of God. That is the power of saying it out loud. The closer you draw to your appointed moment, the more the opposition will push back. This is not a sign that you've gone the wrong way, quite the opposite. Resistance is often the final indicator that breakthrough is near. The enemy knows he cannot stop what God has decreed, but he will try to distract, delay, or discourage you so that you step back before you cross the threshold. Think of Nehemiah rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. As the work neared completion, opposition intensified. Taunts, threats, and lies came from every direction. But Nehemiah refused to come down from the wall. He knew that abandoning the work for even a moment would give his enemies the opening they wanted. In the same way, you are being called to keep your hands on the work and your eyes on the promise. No matter what voices try to draw you away, this final push from the enemy often comes in three forms: distraction, temptation, and intimidation. Distraction shifts your focus to lesser battles, so you waste strength on things that don't matter. Temptation offers you shortcuts that seem easier than staying the course. Intimidation magnifies the challenges ahead, hoping to convince you that you're not ready. The Apostle Paul reminds us in his letter to the Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 13, "Put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything, to stand." This is not the time to retreat, it's the time to plant your feet and refuse to be moved. You may find unexpected pressure from places you thought were safe. Misunderstandings may arise with friends or family. Financial strain might hit at the worst moment. Emotional fatigue may creep in late at night. All of these are designed to make you doubt that you heard from God correctly. But remember, storms often rage the fiercest right before they break. In moments like these, you need to double down on the disciplines that have brought you this far. Keep your prayer life sharp. Fill your mind with the Word. Surround yourself with voices that speak life and faith, not fear and doubt. The enemy's noise may grow louder, but God's whisper will always carry more authority if you stay close enough to hear it. And I want to say this: you are not standing alone. Across nations, others are fighting their own final battles before breakthrough. When you encourage one another, you strengthen the whole line. A soldier who hears the shouts of his comrades fights harder because he knows he's part of something bigger. That's why I believe this is also the moment to rally others. If these words speak to your spirit, take a second to like this message. It helps it reach someone who might be losing heart. Share it, so another chosen one knows they are not alone in the fight. Subscribe, so you stay connected to the stream of prophetic strength God is pouring out in this season. And if God stirs you to sow into this work, know that your seed becomes part of every life this message touches. The truth is, generosity in times of battle is a statement of faith. It says, "I am not retreating. I believe in this mission enough to invest in it." That act alone can break fear and release fresh courage. As you keep moving forward, expect the attacks to expose their own weakness. When the enemy throws his worst at you and you remain standing, it becomes clear that his power is limited. You will discover that much of what intimidated you was only shadow and smoke. This final push is not just about surviving until the 16th of August. It's about arriving strong, focused, and fully aligned. It's about crossing that day with your head high, knowing you resisted every pull to quit. It's about stepping into the promise without the baggage of compromise or the chains of fear. When the sun rises on that day, the trials of this season will not define you. The fact that you endured them will. And those who watched you stand will know your strength came from a place deeper than your own resolve. So, keep your hands on the wall. Keep your eyes on the horizon. And when the noise grows louder, let it remind you that the finish line is close. You've come too far to step back now. Victory is already in motion. And every step you take now is part of the testimony you'll carry into the next season. There are moments when God peels back the veil and lets you see what has been written about you since before time began. This is not imagination or wishful thinking. It is a glimpse into the scroll of destiny, where your name and calling have been inscribed by the hand of the Almighty. The scroll is not a literal parchment you can hold, but it is very real in the spiritual realm. David spoke of it in the Psalms, saying that all his days were written in God's book before one of them came to be. This record contains the blueprint of your life, the assignments you are meant to fulfill, the seasons you will walk through, and the promises God has set aside specifically for you. In some rare moments, God gives a vision or revelation of that scroll. These glimpses are not given to satisfy curiosity, but to anchor you in purpose. They come when you need reassurance that your life is not a series of accidents, but a design unfolding with precision. I recall speaking with a woman named Esther who had been in a season of uncertainty. During prayer, she saw in her spirit a page covered in gold letters. At the top was her name, and beside it was a date she did not recognize. Months later, that date became the day a long prayed-for door opened in her life. She told me, "It felt like God let me see my own chapter before it was written in the natural." End of, according to what is revealed in the book of Revelation, chapter 5, verse 1. Then I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll with writing on both sides and sealed with 7 seals. John's vision here was of the Lamb breaking the seals. But the principle remains: what is sealed in heaven can only be opened in God's timing, by His authority. When God lets you glimpse your scroll, it may come in a vision, a dream, or through prophetic confirmation. Sometimes it's a sudden understanding of why past events happened as they did. Other times, it's an unshakable knowing of what is ahead. You might not see every detail, but you recognize the weight of the moment. You have seen something sacred. Such encounters are meant to deepen your faith, not to replace it. God rarely shows the entire plan because He wants you to walk by trust, not sight. If you saw every step, you might either rush ahead or shrink back. The glimpse is enough to confirm you are on the right path, but still leaves room for daily dependence on Him. Holding on to what you've seen can be challenging. Life's delays or detours may tempt you to question if it was real. That's why it's important to write it down. Just as the prophets recorded their visions, a written record keeps the revelation alive during seasons when your emotions waver. The scroll also carries a sense of accountability. When you know what God has spoken over your life, you become responsible to steward it. This may mean making choices that protect your calling, saying no to distractions, and aligning your priorities with the assignment written over you. At times, knowing your scroll will set you apart. Others might not understand why you can't compromise in certain areas, why you pursue certain paths with such intensity, or why you wait when others rush ahead. But those who have seen even a glimpse of their destiny understand that the cost of delay or detour is too high. The day will come perhaps sooner than you think, when the things you have seen in the Spirit begin to manifest in the natural. It may feel like déjà vu, but it is not. It is the moment when heaven's record and earth's reality align. That alignment is not random. It is the fulfillment of what has already been written. As the 16th of August approaches, imagine your name written in God's hand beside that date. Not because the day itself has power, but because God has chosen it as a point of convergence in your scroll. When that day arrives, you will not be stumbling into chance. You will be stepping into something that was set in motion long before you knew to expect it. And when you step into that moment, you will feel the weight of heaven's authorship over your life. Every trial, every waiting season, every whispered promise will suddenly make sense, not as scattered fragments, but as carefully woven lines in the story God has been writing for you since the beginning. There are moments in a believer's journey when God brings a season to a close, not as an ending to mourn, but as a chapter completed in His perfect order. Closure in the kingdom is never empty. It always carries the seed of what's next. This is why understanding the prophetic significance of numbers matters, because sometimes God gives you a number to declare as a sign that one thing is finished and something new is beginning. In these days leading to the 16th of August, you are not only approaching fulfillment, you are sealing the old season. What has been delayed will be closed. What has been resisted will be resolved. And what has been unfinished will be completed in God's timing. The act of speaking this into the open is more than symbolism. It's alignment with heaven's order. I think of the moment when Jesus, hanging on the cross, spoke the words, "It is finished." The declaration was not just about the suffering ending, it was about the victory being sealed. The enemy's claim was broken, the old covenant fulfilled, and the way opened for the new. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of John, chapter 19, verse 30, "It is finished." That phrase holds the weight of finality and fulfillment in your life. There are promises that have been waiting for the seal of God's completion before they can fully manifest. Prophetic closure is an act of faith. It says, "I trust that what God has spoken over me will be completed, even if I can't yet see the full picture." Speaking it aloud, writing it down, or marking it with a prophetic number becomes your agreement with that truth. For you in this moment, the number is 641. 6, the number of man and earthly labor, brought to its fullness. 4, God's order in creation, establishing what is stable and enduring. 1, the beginning of a new thing, the first step into a fresh season. Together, 641 becomes a declaration that the labor of the old season has reached its fullness. God's order is being established, and a new beginning is being birthed. When you declare it, you are not just marking the end of something, you are stepping into the readiness for what's next. You are saying to heaven, "I receive your order in my life, and I am ready for the beginning you have prepared." This act will also serve as a reminder when doubts try to creep in. You will be able to look back and remember the moment you put a seal on the old season and set your eyes forward. Even if challenges arise, you will know they are not remnants of the past, but shaping forces for your future. So, let this be a moment of intentional agreement. See the old season as a completed chapter. Feel the shift as God's order takes hold. Anticipate the new beginning that follows. Type 641 below as your prophetic seal of completion and readiness. Let it be more than a comment. Let it be your covenant with heaven that you are closing the old with gratitude and stepping into the new with faith. And when you do, take a moment to let the weight of this act settle in your spirit. You are not simply typing numbers into a screen, you are stepping into an ancient pattern of prophetic agreement. The prophets built altars, kings set up memorial stones, Jesus broke bread and lifted the cup. All these were physical acts that carried eternal meaning. Your declaration today is part of that same spiritual tradition. As you release 641, envision the 6 of your human labor being gathered up into God's hands, the 4 of His perfect order coming to align every detail, and the 1 of a brand new beginning shining like the first light of dawn. See the pages turning in your scroll, the ink still fresh as heaven writes the next chapter of your story. You may notice a shift even in the atmosphere around you, peace settling in, clarity replacing confusion, courage rising in places where weariness had been. That is the fruit of closure. When God seals something, He also releases grace for what's ahead, in days to come. You may be reminded of this number unexpectedly on a clock. in a receipt, in a random sequence, and each time it will be like a whisper from heaven. The old is finished. The new has begun. Oh, walk forward, knowing that you are not entering the next season with loose ends. You are crossing over with the authority of one who has completed the assignment of the last chapter. The night before, a divine appointment carries a different kind of weight. It is not like the nights when worry keeps you awake. Instead, it is an alertness of the spirit, a sense that something long expected is about to arrive. Time itself feels as though it is holding its breath. As the eve of the 16th of August approaches, you may notice the hours feel both fast and slow. Fast, because everything in you is leaning forward, anticipating what is to come. Slow, because each moment feels heavy with meaning, as if every breath and heartbeat is part of a countdown only heaven fully understands. In Scripture, the night before, a great move of God often holds significant preparation. The Israelites prepared the Passover meal the night before their deliverance from Egypt. Joshua commanded the people to consecrate themselves before crossing the Jordan. Jesus prayed in Gethsemane before his arrest, setting his heart for the fulfillment of his mission. These nights were not filled with frantic activity, but with intentional readiness, as the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3. For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it lingers, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. These words capture the stillness and certainty of such a night. You may find yourself reflecting deeply on the battles fought to get here, the prayers whispered in the dark, the moments when you nearly gave up but didn't. The night before breakthrough often invites a kind of sacred inventory, where you see how each twist and turn has prepared you for what comes next. There can also be a sharpening of spiritual sensitivity. You might sense God's presence in a way that is almost physical, an inner calm, a quiet joy, or even tears that come without sadness. These are signs that your heart is aligned and your spirit is ready to step into the next chapter. It is also a time when distractions may try to creep in. Last-minute fears, doubts, or unexpected inconveniences might arise, attempting to pull your focus away from the promise. But this night is not the time for scattering your attention. It is the time to center your thoughts on God's faithfulness. For some, this may be a night of worship, filling the air with songs that have carried you through valleys and over mountains. For others, it may be a night of quiet, sitting in the presence of God and simply listening. There is no single correct way to spend it, as long as your heart remains anchored to the one who holds the day ahead. You might also feel the weight of the unknown. Even when you are certain God has spoken, stepping into something new carries an element of mystery. That is not a flaw. It is part of the journey of faith. Like the Israelites who stood at the edge of the Red Sea before it parted, you may not see every detail yet, but you know the way will be made. This night is also an opportunity to release any lingering burdens. Unforgiveness, fear, or regret has no place in the dawn you are about to enter. Letting go is not just about obedience, it's about making space for what God is bringing. A vessel filled with yesterday's heaviness cannot be filled with tomorrow's promise. It's worth noting that in the spiritual realm, this night may already be celebrated. Angels and unseen witnesses may be rejoicing over what is about to break forth. The sense of anticipation you feel is not yours alone, it is shared by heaven. When you finally lay your head down to rest, do so with confidence. The God who has led you this far is not about to falter now. The same hand that wrote the 16th of August into your scroll will hold you steady as you step into it. And when you wake, you will know that you have crossed an invisible line in time, moving from preparation into fulfillment, from waiting into walking. The night will have done its work, and the morning will carry you into everything that was promised. You will rise with a steady heart, not rushing, not hesitating, but stepping forward as one who has been expected. Every step into the new day will feel like walking into a story already written, where the author himself is waiting to turn the next page with you. The morning of an appointed day carries a weight unlike any other. You may have experienced anticipation before a wedding day, the start of a long-awaited trip, or a long-planned celebration. But when heaven marks a date, the air feels different. It is as if creation itself leans in to watch what will unfold. On the morning of the 16th of August, you will not wake as you have on other days. Even before your feet touch the floor, there will be an awareness in your spirit, a quiet but undeniable sense that the atmosphere has shifted. It might feel like peace settling over you, or like an inner fire urging you to rise. In the scriptures, mornings often carry the theme of new mercies and divine encounters. Abraham rose early to stand in the place where he had met with God. Moses went up the mountain in the morning to receive the law. Mary Magdalene went to the tomb at dawn and found the stone rolled away. Morning is a time when the veil feels thinner, when light breaks through the shadows, and when God often moves in ways that change the course of a life. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 30, verse 5. Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. This is not just a poetic encouragement, it is a spiritual reality. Darkness has an expiration date, and the morning marks its end. The hours leading up to this morning may be restless. You might wake earlier than usual, stirred by dreams or by a simple awareness that something is different. As the sun rises, you may find yourself reflecting on the journey that brought you here, the battles fought, the prayers prayed, the moments when quitting seemed easier than pressing on. There will also be a heightened sense of sensitivity to God's presence. Ordinary sounds may feel sharper. Familiar places might seem touched by an unfamiliar light. You may notice details you've overlooked before: a bird's song, the way the light falls across a room, as if creation is echoing the newness of the moment. Some will feel a deep stillness, as though God is saying, "Rest in what I have done." Others will feel an urge to move, to step into action, because the door they have waited for is swinging open. Both are right responses, because the morning of fulfillment is both a time of receiving and a time of stepping forward. It's important to guard your heart on this morning. The enemy, unable to prevent the promise, will sometimes attempt to dull its impact through distraction, fear, or doubt. He may whisper that nothing will change, that you have only imagined this moment. Resist those lies. Stand in the truth of what God has spoken and confirmed. Some will find that on this morning, the fulfillment is immediate and visible: phone calls, messages, or events that confirm the shift. For others, the morning marks the spiritual crossing into a new season, with visible changes unfolding in the days and weeks that follow. Both are equally significant, because the morning is about alignment, not just visible outcomes. Think of it like the breaking of dawn. The sun doesn't suddenly appear at full strength. It rises gradually, pushing back the night with steady light. In the same way, The morning of your appointed day begins a process that will continue to unfold, each hour brighter than the last. It's also a moment to be attentive. God may speak instructions that are crucial for the season ahead. These could come through Scripture, through a quiet prompting in your heart, or through the words of someone who doesn't even realize they are confirming God's message to you. Write these down. They are the first pieces of direction for your new chapter. Above all, let gratitude mark this morning. Thank Him for the journey, for the refining, for the battles that shaped you, and for the promise now taking form. Gratitude will keep your heart soft, your vision clear, and your steps steady. And as the day unfolds, remember that you are walking in a moment heaven has anticipated as much as you have. Angels, prayers, and divine orchestration have all been working toward this sunrise. You are not just witnessing it, you are part of its fulfillment. With each breath you take on this morning, know that you are stepping on ground prepared long before you arrived. Every ray of light is a reminder that what God begins, He finishes, and you are now living inside a promise that could not be stopped. When heaven speaks, it is not simply to inform, it is to transform. And on the 16th of August, there will be a moment when the prophetic announcement over your life is released. Not in whispers, but in clarity so strong, it settles everything that has been uncertain. This is the hour when the word that has been circling in your spirit for weeks, months, or even years becomes public, an open proclamation from heaven that the season has shifted. What was hidden will be revealed. What was delayed will accelerate. What was resisted will be established. Think of the moment when the angel Gabriel spoke to Mary. His announcement wasn't a suggestion, it was a declaration of what heaven had already determined. In the same way, when the announcement over your life comes, it won't be up for debate. It will carry the authority of God's yes that overrides every no you have faced. As Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 20, "For it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you." In this moment, even your own words may surprise you, because they will carry weight beyond your natural ability. They will carry the echo of heaven. The announcement is not only for you, it is also for those connected to your calling. Some who doubted will be silenced. Others will be inspired to step into their own obedience. And still others will be drawn closer to God because they will see His hand clearly on your life. This is why preparation has been so intense. The weight of a public announcement is heavy. It marks a line in the sand. Once it is spoken, you cannot go back to how things were before. The responsibility grows, but so does the grace to carry it. You may feel a mixture of emotions, joy, or even a bit of trembling. That's normal. Every great assignment from God has moments where the human heart feels the weight of divine partnership, but the same God who calls you will also sustain you. When the announcement comes, mark it, write it down, speak it over yourself in prayer. Let it be a reference point you return to whenever the journey feels long or uncertain. This is your stake in the ground. And in this exact moment, I want to invite you to partner with what God is doing not only in your life, but in the lives of other chosen ones, hearing this same call. If these words have stirred something in you, take a second to like this message so it reaches those who need to hear it today. Share it with someone you know is on the edge of their own breakthrough. Leave a comment about what this word means to you. because your testimony can become someone else's confirmation. Subscribe if you haven't yet, so you can keep walking with this prophetic stream. And if God moves your heart to sow into this work, know that your seed multiplies, reaching far beyond what you can see right now. Your act of engaging, whether through sharing, speaking, or sowing, is not just about this moment. It's about creating ripples of faith that reach other shores. Just as you are receiving this announcement, someone else is waiting for theirs, and your obedience might be part of their journey. Once the words are released over you, begin to look for movement. Some shifts will be immediate phone calls, unexpected opportunities, favor in places you once faced resistance. Others will unfold steadily, like a sunrise filling the sky one ray at a time. Both are heaven's way of saying, "It has begun." This announcement is not the end, it's the activation. It is the starting gun for the race you've been training for in the hidden place. From here, you will run with a new strength, a clear vision, and a deeper confidence that what God has spoken, He will finish. So, stand ready, listen closely, and when heaven's words meet your ears, let them take root in your heart. Repeat them until they become part of your very identity. You are not the same person you were before this day. You are walking under a fresh declaration from the throne of God. From this day forward, let every step you take carry the weight of that announcement. Let it shape your choices, fuel your prayers, and steady your heart in storms. You are moving in sync with heaven's decree now, and no force on earth or in hell can silence what God has proclaimed over you. When a prophetic word is fulfilled, it rarely stands alone. It is like the first drop of rain that signals the storm has arrived soon. More follows. On the other side of an appointed moment, you begin to see the visible fruit of what you have been carrying in faith. Some manifestations are immediate. You may receive a call, an open door, or a tangible sign within hours or days of stepping into the new season. These moments feel like heaven's way of saying, "See, I told you I would do it." They confirm not only that you heard correctly, but that the timing was exact. Other manifestations are quieter, unfolding over weeks or months. These are no less miraculous. Like seeds planted in prepared soil, they emerge in their appointed time, nurtured by the prayers and obedience that have gone before. In this way, fulfillment becomes an ongoing journey rather than a single event. As the Apostle Paul wrote in his letter to the Philippians, chapter 1, verse 6, "Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus." Fulfillment is not the end of God's work. It is the continuation of His process until it reaches perfection. After the 16th of August, you may notice your perspective shift. Situations that once caused anxiety now seem small. Challenges still come, but they no longer have the same power to shake you. That is the strength that comes from seeing God's word come to pass. It anchors your faith in lived reality. Relationships may also realign. Some people will be drawn to you because they recognize the mark of God's favor. Others may distance themselves, unable to understand the change in your life or the priorities you now carry. This is part of the refining that continues after breakthrough. God not only brings you into promise, He shapes your environment to support it. There will also be moments of confirmation that catch you off guard. A verse, a conversation, or even a seemingly random encounter will echo what God has been speaking all along. These small affirmations are reminders that fulfillment is a living, ongoing reality, not just a date on a calendar. It's important, in this stage, to remain attentive and grateful. Fulfillment can be a dangerous place if it makes you complacent. Just as the Israelites were called to remember the Lord after entering the promised land, you too must guard your heart against the subtle drift that can happen when the pressure of waiting is gone. Continue to steward what has been given to you. If God has opened a door, walk through it with humility and diligence. If He has entrusted you with influence, use it to build His kingdom, not your own name. If He has brought resolution to a long battle, let that victory inspire bold faith for others still in the fight. You may also find that the fulfillment you are experiencing becomes a testimony that draws others closer to God. Stories of His faithfulness have power to break doubt, to steer hope, and to remind weary hearts that their own appointed day is coming. Share what He has done with sincerity, giving Him the glory for every step. Fulfillment also brings responsibility. The weight of the promise is not just in receiving it, but in carrying it forward. This means continuing to seek God for direction, protecting the purity of what He has entrusted to you, and staying sensitive to His leading for what's next. And here is the mystery. As one promise is fulfilled, new ones are often revealed. God's plans for you are layered. Each completed word becomes the foundation for another. What you are stepping into now may be the starting point for something far beyond what you have imagined. So, walk forward with eyes wide open. Watch for the signs of His ongoing work. Keep your heart in a posture of worship and your hands ready for service. Fulfillment is not a place to camp. It is a platform from which God will launch you into greater things. When you look back on this season, you will see how seamlessly God wove it all together. The preparation, the waiting, the breakthrough, and the manifestation. Each thread was necessary, and each one now shines with the light of His faithfulness. And as you move forward, let this be your constant reminder. The same God who fulfilled His word, this time will do it again. Every future promise now rests on the unshakable evidence of His past faithfulness. And that truth will steady you in every season still to come. There is a unique peace that settles in after the fulfillment of a long-awaited promise. It is not the kind of peace that simply comes from the absence of struggle. It is the deep, anchoring calm of knowing you have walked in step with the will of God and seen His hand bring to completion what He began. This peace does not mean life will be free from challenges. In fact, new seasons often bring new battles. But there is a shift inside you, a confidence born from experience that changes how you approach those battles. You no longer fight wondering if God will come through. You fight knowing that He already has and will again. The ancient words recorded in Romans, chapter 8, verse 31, still echo today. If God is for us, who can be against us? Once you have lived through the fulfillment of a prophetic word, those words stop being a verse you've read and become a reality you've lived. After the 16th of August, you may notice that your prayers change. They may become less about pleading for rescue and more about aligning with God's strategy. You begin to intercede from a place of authority, praying with the assurance of someone who has seen God's power firsthand. This is also the point where gratitude becomes a lifestyle rather than a reaction. You wake up thankful, not just for what He has done, but for who He is. Gratitude begins to shape your perspective, helping you to see even small blessings as pieces of a larger tapestry he is weaving. The fulfillment of one word often becomes the seedbed for another. God's promises are not isolated events. They are part of an ongoing conversation with you. His chosen one, the same voice that spoke the last word, will speak again. And because you have learned to recognize it, you will be ready. There is also an increased awareness of stewardship. When God fulfills His word, He entrusts you with the fruit of that fulfillment. Whether it's a new opportunity, a restored relationship, or a healed heart, these gifts are meant to be cultivated and used for His purposes. You become a caretaker of His promises, carrying them with honor and responsibility. Some will watch your life and quietly take note. They will remember the season you were in before this day and compare it to the one you are in now. Your transformation will be a silent testimony that speaks louder than any argument, proof that God still fulfills His word in the lives of those who trust Him. You may also find that fulfillment sharpens your discernment. Having walked through the process once, you recognize the signs of God's leading more clearly. You notice patterns in how He speaks, how He prepares you, and how He positions you. This makes you quicker to respond in future seasons, avoiding delays that come from hesitation or doubt. The peace that follows fulfillment also frees you from the constant pressure to strive. You understand now that the weight of the promise was never yours to carry alone. Your role was obedience, God's role was completion, and He never fails in His part. As you look ahead, you can do so with a steady heart. There will be more steps, more seasons, and more stretching. But there will also be more fulfillment, more joy, and more demonstrations of His faithfulness. The journey is not over. It has simply moved into a greater dimension. So let the peace of this moment sink deep into your spirit. Let it remind you that you are walking in a story authored by the one who cannot lie, who does not fail, and who delights in finishing what He begins. You are not the same as you were before this promise was fulfilled. You carry a new authority, a new gratitude, and a new clarity about who you are and who He is, and that will mark every step you take from this day forward. You will find yourself walking lighter, not because the path is easier, but because the weight of uncertainty has been lifted. Every prayer you pray now carries the resonance of fulfilled hope. Every decision you make is guided by the memory of His unwavering faithfulness. Even in future storms, you will stand taller, because you know the sound of His voice in the wind and the steadying touch of His hand in the waves. This fulfillment is not just a chapter closed, it is the compass that will keep you oriented toward His heart for the rest of your journey. You have walked with me through every turn of this journey, from the first whisper of God's calling to the appointed day of fulfillment, and into the peace that follows. By now, you know this was never about chance, timing, or coincidence. It has always been about a divine plan, set in motion long before you even knew to expect it. And now, I want you to carry this forward. Your story, your breakthrough, your testimony. It's not just for you. It's a seed meant to inspire faith in others who are still in their waiting season. If this message has spoken to you, take a moment to like it. It's a small action, but it helps this word find someone else who needs it today. Share it with a friend, a family member, or even on your feed, because you never know whose spirit might be strengthened by it. Leave a comment about what this journey has stirred in your heart. Your words might be the confirmation someone else has been praying for. And if you haven't yet, subscribe so you don't miss the next prophetic message. If God moves your heart to sow into this work, I know that you're helping carry this message to nations and lives you may never meet in person. Every time you take one of these steps, you're not just supporting a message, you're multiplying its reach, amplifying hope, and partnering with heaven's agenda in this season. So, as you step into what God has prepared for you beyond the 16th of August, remember this: you are part of a global tapestry of chosen ones, each walking in their own divine timeline, and every act of obedience, generosity, and bold faith sends ripples further than you can imagine.